So the user can now navigate to a page that will show the particular ID of the post that they want to load. But now we have a similar problem as we did in post index when we were trying to load data. Remember back in post index we said whenever this component is about to mount, go ahead and fetch our post. Go grab some data off the server. So we've now got a similar problem to that here inside of our post show component. Whenever a user is about to view this component, or it's about to show up on the page, we really want to do a GET request to our API and fetch a post with this very particular ID. So let's go ahead and implement that in this section. The first thing we need to do is make sure that we have an action creator that can fetch a single post. Let's start by making that action creator. So inside of our action creator, or excuse me, our actions file up here, we'll just go through the process that we've done several times before. At the top, we will create a new action type, export constant fetch post, and then we will create our action creator down here, export function, fetch post, and we'll assume that will always be called with an ID, the ID of the post that we need to fetch. So we'll make our request, and it will be a GET request with the root URL, and we'll go to posts/ID because we want to get the post endpoint with a very particular ID, the one that was passed into this function right here. Don't forget that we need to add our key onto the end like so. Then we just need to go ahead and return our action. So we'll return type fetch post, and our payload will be request. All right, so this looks good for our action creator. We've got our GET request, the root URL /post/ID, and then the API key. This is looking pretty good. Now we just need to make sure that we collect the data inside of our reducer. So we'll go over to reducer posts. We'll grab fetch post as our action type, and then we'll handle our case fetch post. So remember, whenever we fetch an individual post, we want to save it onto this post key right here. So we'll say return state post action.payload.data. So keep our existing state around, but we want to replace the post in there. We want to use this new post that we just fetched from our API instead. All right, so this is looking pretty good right here. We just need to go ahead now and make use of that action creator inside of post show. So whenever post show is about to render, we'll go ahead and call that action creator that we just made. So we're getting pretty used to this creating or importing action creators and using them in components now. So I hope it's really getting into your muscle memory by now. At the top, we'll do import connect from React Redux, and then we'll import our action creator fetch post from actions index, and then we will go ahead and connect. Don't forget to do 2 sets of parens. We're not mapping any state to props, so we can go ahead and do null, and we'll do fetch post as an object. So we'll do our shorthand here for importing the action creator again. Next, we'll make use of our lifecycle method. So at the top, we got component, we'll mount. So whenever the component is just about to show up on the screen, let's make sure that we go ahead and try to fetch that very particular post ID. So we'll do this.props.fetch post, this.props.params.id. Remember, the ID is coming from the URL, so we pull the ID out of the URL, we pass it to fetch post. Fetch post goes and makes the backend request. It resolves with some data. Our reducer picks it up. And then we want to make sure that we can show that post inside of here. I'm going to go ahead and save this, and we'll go ahead and give it a shot in the browser. Okay, I'll refresh. And it looks like we've got a request to 63, and we got our data right here. Perfect, just what we wanted. Request for a single blog post. And note that it does, unlike our index route, contain the content of the blog post, which is specifically why we need to make a second request, a follow-up request here. All right, this is looking good. Let's go ahead and continue in the next section.